Hey, look at that.
Perfect.
We're live.
What does that even mean anymore? Aren't we always live?
That's a good point.
Someone's always watching.
Wow, that just got like weirdly.
You didn't
creepy
expect
the way-
Monday morning existential dread, did you?
Yeah, Big Brother Pete is here
It's because
to explain how the world works. Good morning, everybody.
I watched 3 movies actually 4 movies, but 3 that count for this month's Sitting in the Dark.
One of the movies I watched doesn't count.
It
Like,
doesn't
there's
count.
so little context with what you were saying.
Yeah. So the movies that I watched were The Invitation, The Night House, and Caveat. Have you seen any of these?
I've seen 2 of the 3.
Okay. Can you guess what the series is that I'm doing?
Well, The Invitation I remember quite well. The Night House, I know I watched it, but for the life of me, I can't remember. Is it? It's Rebecca Hall.
Rebecca Hall. Yeah, her
and
husband
she's-
is passed, and she is haunted by, we think, the spirit of her dead husband.
Okay, I can't. I don't know. What is your series? I've never even heard of Caveat, or if I've heard of it, I can't place it.
Caveat is the one where the guy says, "Yeah, I'll watch your niece in the weird house," but the caveat is you have to be locked into a vest that is attached by a chain to a post in the basement that is only long enough to let you into certain rooms but not others. So
Wow.
you're on a leash. That's the caveat, is the leash. And man, shenanigans ensue in that one.
Okay.
The
Well, it
the
seems like
theme
house
is
related. There's a house.
well, you'd think so. The theme is, I said get out. The implication is you've had many opportunities to say no and leave, but you stay too long. You stay
Okay.
just to the point where you should not be there anymore. It's a very fragile concept, but the movies are good.
It's always good to know over on Sitting in the Dark. They're exploring the fragility of horror subgenres.
I said get out. Lots of O's and U's.
Oh my God, too funny.
Yeah. All right. You want
we
to
are-
do this one?
Yeah, we're here to talk about a movie. For those of you tuning in, we welcome you. Thanks for tuning in to our live stream as we record this. If you feel like throwing any comments or questions our way, we always welcome that. We generally don't bring them up until the very end during our what is the post-show chit-chat. But feel free to throw comments at us as we go. And I guess with that, Pete, take it away.
I'm Pete Wright.
And I'm Andy Nelson.
Welcome to the next reel. When the movie ends,
Our conversation begins.
the letter is over. If you love a person, you can forgive anything. Okay, Andy, we're back to Bette Davis.
Yeah, our Bette Davis series. We started this a while back, which was a fun series to have dived into. Let's see, what did we talk about? Do you remember all the Bette Davis films?
Oh my gosh.
Let's see, Dark
Really?
Victory, Whatever Happened to Baby Jane, All About Eve, Now Voyager, and The Little Foxes.
So apparently you do. Well done.
I was testing you.
Yeah.
See if you did your
failed.
homework. So, and this is your add-on, and I'm curious. I mean, Bette Davis. There's so many reasons to talk about Bette Davis, but I'm curious what drew you to return to the Bette Davis series, and what drew you to discuss this particular film.
Well, I had never seen this film, and I remember it having come highly regarded as, a Bette Davis entry into noir. It has a sort of complicated journey from book to stage to screen, and also is a victim of the Hays Code. And how does that impact the story? The early letterbox reviews that I had read about the movie, the high regard that this film is held in film circles, just kind of makes it an easy add to this particular list. I'm very glad I watched it. And uh, yeah, I think I'll say it right now. I have some quibbles. And yet I'm still very glad to have this in the canon.
Yeah, having quibbles with this I think is a fair assessment. I mean, I enjoyed it. I did
Yes.
enjoy the film. I think it plays well. There are definitely some dated elements that we surely will discuss as we have this conversation. Most notably, some racist depictions of Chinese and Malay, and 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 the way white people are treated. Some of it was
This
almost comical, the way that it played.
Yeah, I mean, this
But
could have been in the imperialist era filmmaking that we're really celebrating here. This
Yeah.
is, yeah, this is high imperialist dignity, and it's rough. There's some rough
Yeah.
watching.
Yeah, there is. But I mean, Bette Davis is always fun to watch. I wouldn't put this in like one of my favorite Bette Davis performances, but it does have some performances that I genuinely did love. So, yeah.
For sure. All right. So about the movie. The movie is based on W. Somerset Maugham's play, The Letter. It originally derived from a story that he had published earlier. It had already been made into a film in 1929, which I haven't seen. Have you seen that one?
I did. I actually watched it as well.
Oh, like for homework, like doing all the homework instead of what I did.
I did extra credit, maybe we
Okay.
should just call it. Yeah.
Can you give me just a brief review of how that film works for you in the context of the story?
My impression, I mean, I've never read Maugham's, neither his short story nor his play. My understanding is that version, the 1929 version, hones a little truer to the play. It starts with our are we calling her our protagonist? So it starts with the our lead character, we'll just say, played by Jean Eagles, and her husband. It starts with the two of them at home having a conversation. She's, I don't know, do you say knitting lace? She's sewing her lace, whatever she's doing. She's lacing, we'll just say.
Okay, good.
Robert decides, I'm going to go into town. I got to return this gun. And so he leaves, and she sends a letter off. And then Jeffrey Hammond shows up. Interestingly, Jeffrey Hammond is played by Herbert Marshall, who plays her husband Bob in this movie, which was just fantastic to see him in both of them.
Yeah.
He shows up, they have the whole conversation, and we get a whole sense of the story as we come to find out later in this film, where they've had an affair, but now he's with, in that film, it's just a Chinese woman. It's not Eurasian. She's Chinese, and they're not married. It's his mistress. And he says, I don't want anything to do with you anymore. I'm done. And in a fit of rage, she shoots him. So we see all that at the beginning. All of that's like laid out in front of us. Then we kind of jump to the trial, and we see the trial. It's only like a 65-minute film. It's very short.
Okay.
We see the trial, and then everything from there kind of plays out the same. The way that they shot her going to pay for the letter was beautifully crafted. I love that whole sequence. And then the story ends when, her lawyer tells the husband, he gives him the letter, and her husband sees what's been going on and wants the truth out of Leslie. And he gets the truth, and she's just like, having the line that she delivers, I can't remember what it is, but with all my heart, I still love the man I killed.
The man I killed, right.
So we get that line, and that's the end. Like, that's how it ends. Like,
Wow.
just fade to black and we're done. And so
Wow.
it's a much darker pre-code story, right? Like we're not getting the story of kind of like the widow's revenge or the police or anything afterwards. So it's a darker tale, and it's interesting. And honestly, I actually kind of preferred Gene Eagles over Bette Davis.
Andy.
I know. For a Bette Davis series, I feel like that I shouldn't be saying that, but
No.
it was true. It was true.
That's fascinating. Well, there's a lot that's fascinating in this, and as we talk about the story here, I don't know how. I mean, I think we need to fully litigate what it means to be darker, because there's not a lot of light in the way the 1940 movie ends. I am curious the rationale of the Hays Code. We'll talk about this in a second. The story, as you already laid out, you laid out what we don't know in the 1940 version, because the 1940 version of the movie, if you haven't seen it, it opens with the murder, not the experience of everything that leads up to the murder. What follows as her husband and the attorney gather around Bette Davis, around Leslie, in their bungalow, is the start of a long lie that she tells to rationalize her murdering this guy. And the lie is that he came on to her, that it was one of, I mean, would you call it sexual abuse? Would you call it, I mean, was it rape? It feels like it was that she was dancing around.
I think she paints it as rape. I mean,
Okay.
He tried to make love to me and I shot him. So
That's the line. He tried to make love to me and I shot him. That's right.
yeah.
So everybody just sort of buys that. She tells this story with clinical precision, right? That obviously she's telling a fib. There is nothing in here that seems like she's being authentic. And this brings me to my first quibble about the film. It is the act of, and maybe this was from the original play, but it's the act of allegiance to exposition. This is a long sequence where she's telling this story, and I think it's what makes the filmmaking feel dated. I think in a more modern film, you might have this told via unreliable flashback, right? You might have more action on screen rather than just her telling this story. I found myself getting a little bit bogged down in the way she tells the story and anxious that there wasn't enough happening. There is a whole middle ground in this movie where it's just telling stories to each other that could have been told in a much more dynamic fashion through some sort of flashback. Your take?
Well, I mean, I'm glad we didn't have the flashback. I think that would have been hard. I mean, the only way they could have effectively done that if the flashback itself was unreliable, and it was
That's
always
what
from her.
I literally said
spinning.
That.
Yeah.
Unreliable flashback.
Oh, okay. I didn't. Yeah. Okay. For some reason, I didn't. I zipped past unreliable and went straight to flashback.
It is the most important word in the sentence.
I know. I skipped the word that mattered. I think that. Again, I haven't read the play either, but it was interesting that in the 1929 version, we don't get that big expository moment with all the white people just sitting around casually after the murder.
And can we just say
the whole thing? No police, just
the murder happens, and the next scene after the exposition is these three white dudes make her make breakfast for them. They all sit around breakfast before they take her to the police.
Yeah. It definitely is something that speaks to its time of privilege and expectation.
Right.
So, but we don't get any of that in the 1929 version. Is it in the play? I don't know. But what we do go is straight to the trial, and she's doing all of that recounting on the witness stand, which in some way makes more sense because it's like, you know, she keeps saying, "Oh, I can't go on," and the lawyer's like, "I know, but you have to," and she eventually gets the whole story out. Is it better? Is it worse? In my money, it ended up being better because one of my biggest struggles with Bette Davis is in that scene, because she always is kind of like half smiling, and I'm just like, she's not selling this. Am I supposed to be believing her? Because I'm not. And that was a real struggle for me with her performance in the film. The rest of it I think is fine, but like in that sequence, I'm like, I can't buy her because she's just too casual. She's laying back and smiling as she's talking and recounting this. She doesn't seem traumatized in any way at all. And that was a real struggle for me, because it kind of killed the fact that I was meant to buy her story.
I wonder, and I'll say I 100% agree. The only way I can rationalize that performance is that it is another layer on the privilege cake of this movie, which is, oh, this is a white woman of plantation ownership, and she committed a crime, but, you know, she doesn't have to worry so much about it because she comes from a family of prestige and she's part of this sort of ownership community. That's how I had to put it in my head in that shaped box, because otherwise you're right. I don't buy her at all. I don't know what they were going for. This had to be a directorial and performance choice because it doesn't make sense to me.
No, I mean, I do like William Wyler has one moment in that whole sequence where it's creative the way that he chooses to shoot it, where it's almost like she's telling the story and the camera is just focusing on the action that had happened. Right now, there's nothing in front of the camera. It's just, we see where she's talking about, that's where Jeffrey was standing. And then I went to the drawer and I grabbed the gun, and the camera like pans over to the drawer and it pans up and you see kind of the camera go through the door to the porch as Jeffrey stumbles after she shoots and then falls to the ground and the camera falls. Like the way that he shot that I thought was interesting, because I'm like, okay, at least we're kind of getting a replay, even if it is, as you said, like that's perhaps the closest we get to our unreliable flashback. But the fact that the way that it's playing is just, it's so hard to buy. And I mean, I guess you can say, okay, is the lawyer, is he buying into it that much? Or maybe not. Maybe he's the one who's kind of pushing and asking the questions. But I did kind of like, okay, Howard, you're not quite pushing hard enough. And but again, it's like, it's such a weird situation because it's like, it's her lawyer. It's like the family lawyer is here. I never could quite figure out who that other guy was who kind of came along with him, but he kind of pops in and out a few times. But we never have any cops. Like there's no detectives. Like there's no one here actively pushing for the facts. It's just friends and the family lawyer who is going to be defending her. And so he's trying to get to the bottom of it, but it's just, I don't know. The whole thing played poorly for me. That whole open was not the open. Like the open is fantastic. Like the whole setup of the film. It's after that when everyone shows up. That was rough.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I absolutely agree. I feel like for me, that entire sequence, and it's not a short sequence before we get into some of the mechanics of the letter itself. It's muddy. It's really muddy. There's a lot of it's just unclear. You're not sure. I mean, you already said it. You're not entirely sure who our protagonist is. Who are we following in this movie? Who are we meant to have as our audience avatar? I thought at one point maybe it's the naive, the younger guy who's just there that you mentioned. We don't know who he is. That went away quickly.
Pretty quick.
He's disposed. So I'm not quite sure. I think it ends up being Joyce, the lawyer. I think we end up being more, because he ends up being the character of moral fortitude, or not fortitude, moral awareness, in the end of the movie, and regret. And I think that's, so we'll get there. So after this sequence of exposition, we get to some of the mechanics of the letter. We discover everybody seems pretty happy with how things are going. She's definitely in jail, but they're able to see her and play games, and she does a lot of lacing while she's in jail. It seems to be a fairly minimal penitentiary experience.
She
for
seems like
her.
she's already kind of like best friends with the female warden. You know,
Yes.
it's just
Yeah,
like,
this
oh,
is
she's just so sweet.
very
It's such
different
a
from
shame
our.
She has to stay here. Yeah.
I know. Would we include this in the Women in Prison series that we did before?
right.
No. The answer is no. So we discover by way of the, I think, Chinese assistant to Joyce, Ong, that there is a third party who has in their possession a letter written by Leslie to the murdered Jeffrey saying, you have to come over here. I need you to come over right away. Leslie had already said, I haven't had any contact with him in weeks. And yet that letter was written the day he died. He was killed. There is suspicion. The only people who know about it are obviously Ong, the third party who has the original letter, and now the lawyer and Leslie. This is not widely known. The prosecutor does not know about this letter.
Yeah, and that was a whole thing that I thought was interesting, where it's like it even comes up like Ong brings this letter up as something that the widow has, that she had found this letter, kept this letter, and was going to turn it over to the prosecutor, right? But then it was like this whole thing where it's like, because I don't know, in the legal world, like when you bring things up, they're supposed to let you know of the other information, is my understanding. Right. Like
that's discovery.
There's a discovery. Yes, thank you. But but the way that they describe it is when he tells Leslie about it, she's like, well, surely they wouldn't have shared the evidence if they didn't want to sell it. I'm like, I don't, that's how it works. It's like,
yeah,
it made me laugh. I'm like, yeah, okay. So maybe discovery wasn't quite a thing in 1940. I don't know. That was weird.
The letter, we have a copy of the letter. And if we could take a sidebar on what it means to make a copy of a letter in 1940, it's pretty much just rewriting the letter in your own handwriting, word for word.
Yeah.
And that is called a copy. And it hinges on, there's still mystery left here, because he says, if we see the original and it matches your handwriting, we're in trouble. That I was fascinated by that, because they actually buy themselves an extra layer of suspicion in this window between seeing the copy written in somebody else's handwriting but only seeing the words and actually seeing the original letter. How incredibly useful a tool narratively that we don't have anymore when we use the word copy.
No, exactly. That was a very interesting element, because, as he says, when he looks at the letter, he's like, well, this isn't her handwriting.
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, of course not. Yeah.
It's a copy.
That was very interesting to hear how that played out. I like the element of, like, this is the part of the film I really enjoyed, is like the threat of a possible letter, the blackmail, like all of this actually played really interestingly, actually leading up to Mrs. Hammond killing Leslie. Like I liked all of that a lot. Like I thought it was really interesting the way all of that played, and I think in the scope of what works best about everything with the letter is how Howard Joyce, our lawyer, how he struggles with the realities of this. Like he's like we had talked about Born Yesterday back in our Best Actress series from the 1950 Oscars, and Judy Holliday's husband has a lawyer who has succumbed to not making moral choices on behalf of his client, taking lots of money to do so, and has become an alcoholic because of it. But he's just like shrugged his shoulders and says, yeah, this is who I am. Mm-hmm. Howard Joyce is like at the first stage of that. Like this is, I don't know, presumably the first time he's been in a situation where clients have, or clients or people outside of the case have said, hey, you can buy this and it will save your client. And he then has to make the choice, and he does. And because of that, James Stevenson playing Howard Joyce ended up being my favorite character in the film. Like, such interesting exploration of a lawyer having this internal battle with, do I do what's right? I mean, I'm working on behalf of my client. Should I still go ahead and do that? I thought that was fascinating, and I really enjoyed everything going on with him.
Yeah, that's what I mean by him being our protagonist. I'll say he's my protagonist because
yeah.
I was so interested. We get the whole ethical journey for him. We get the should I do it? I'm gonna do it. I feel bad about doing it. We're in the middle of doing it, and then I regret having done it. Right? We get the whole loop, and I think every stage of that he felt probably the most believable artifact of the film.
Yeah, and this is a tricky film when it comes to the whole concept of protagonist. And I know they weren't kind of examining it quite as much as they are in through today's eyes and through all of the different screenwriting tools and books and everything, but it is a tricky film to call Leslie our protagonist. I mean, we're largely following her through the entire film, and she definitely has kind of like this dark journey, but in so many ways it does feel like Howard's story, you know?
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, for sure. The sequence where they go into Chinatown to actually procure the original letter, I think it begins for me the most sort of exciting parts of the film. And first and foremost, it's because of the cultural dynamic that is completely inverted between Hammond's widow, who has the letter and does not speak English, and Bette Davis, who is wearing the laced shawl. And we have Ong between them, who is translating. And the exchange as Hammond's widow takes power in this scene by standing on the high steps, by iteratively making Leslie remove pieces of herself, the protection of the shawl, come over. I want her to stand up and come over to me, all told through broken translation. And then finally handing the letter, but really dropping the letter on the floor, making Bette Davis bend to pick up the letter in front of her, I thought was really fantastic. Like, what a wonderful exploration of power between these two women that is completely turned on its ear. And that allows us, we should say they pay $10,000, whatever currency.
Which is roughly about $200,000 in today's, yeah.
Wow. Okay. So they pay $10,000, which is a third, it turns out, of what Leslie's husband needed for a new plantation that he's eyeing in Sumatra.
Yeah.
But they don't tell him how much they're spending of their money, which ends up being problematic. She goes back. They have the letter now. The letter is in Joyce's care. They go to trial, and in a very quick trial sequence, she is acquitted. She's off the hook. She leaves.
Yeah.
It sounds very much like much of the movie in 1929 is much of the express version of the movie in 1940.
Well, I mean, we definitely get the sequence going into kind of the dark, shadowy part of Chinatown to procure the letter. I really liked this. I kind of prefer the sequence in the 1929 version because, one, the widow speaks English. It's kind of broken English, but she speaks English. And two, because of that, she is made to do it alone. Like, Howard waits in the alley with the rickshaw for her, and she has to go all like down into this, down these dark stairs into this. It's kind of I don't know what we would call it, but there's a room with a lot of women behind a cage. Like, it's almost like I was like, is this a because in the 1940 film, it feels like an opium den. Like the one guy is smoking opium. Here, it felt like, okay, are these all prostitutes, or like what's kind of the situation here? But they're all kind of behind this caged wall, and the whole thing plays, but it's just Leslie interacting with Mrs. Hammond. And it's so creepy. And when she drops the letter, like all of the other women start laughing at her, and it played so well. This version, I think, plays fine. I enjoy how it plays. I enjoy all of that stuff. If there's a big problem, we haven't really come out and completely said it, but it's the fact that Gail Sondergaard, a Hollywood actress of, I believe, Dutch origin, is in Yellowface and is playing Mrs. Hammond,
Rough.
the Eurasian.
Yeah.
It plays poorly. It's just kind of, and you know, I'm sure we talked about Gail Sondergaard in a similar situation, because we talked about the Anna and the King of Siam, which came out a few years later, and she in that film is also playing somebody of Thai descent, as she's the wife of the king. And so it's like, man, what was going on in Hollywood that, one, Gail Sondergaard was the person to go to if you needed somebody to play an Asian actress, and two, just the fact that they were doing it. You know, it's like, ugh. So
They make a big deal of calling her Eurasian over and over again. And was that in 1929 too?
no, she's Chinese. She's
Okay.
a Chinese mistress in the 1929 version.
Do you think Eurasian was some way to buy them some early credit for making a Dutch woman play Yellowface?
No, it was the Hays Code actually told them you can't have it be a Chinese woman, and Eurasian was their the way that they placated them. So
I didn't catch that. That's fascinating.
yeah,
The Hays Code was
I don't know how. Oh God,
so
sometimes
dumb.
The Hays Code, yeah.
So dumb.
So
Okay.
weird.
We're not yet to the dumbest part of the Hays Code, which is the end. So they have the letter. The final reveal, well, it's not even the final reveal, but the reveal when her husband sits down with her and her lawyer and says, "You guys, I'm very excited about this Sumatra thing. I just need to go get my money, and I've got an investor, and we're going to have our own plantation. It's going to be great." There's a lot of hope and exhilaration. And the lawyer says, I paid 10,000 of your dollars, as you said, 200,000 of your estate in today's dollars to get this letter back. real sorry. But you don't have the money you thought you had to make this deal. And then he wants to see the letter itself, the original letter. And she finally comes clean. She has Joyce give her husband the letter, and she says, "I loved him hard. And I saw we were getting together all the time. And I had him come over. And I had him come over because I heard rumors of this other woman that he loved her. And he said, yeah, I did. I really love her. I love her so much. I'm going to be with her and her only." And it was that bit of ugliness that caused Leslie to pick up the gun and shoot him 6 times.
Yeah.
Crime of passion.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's I mean, there's an interesting depiction of relationships at that particular point in time, which I actually thought was interesting. The fact that she is brought over here, and she kind of in some way blames Bob for a lot of this. The fact that you brought me here, you put me here in this situation where I'm the wife of a plantation manager, and there's nothing else to do, and I have nothing here, and you kind of put me in this situation where I'm just looking for anything, and it's not right. It certainly doesn't justify any of it, but I don't think Bob had ever really thought about any of that, and so I thought that was interesting. Like, I really liked Herbert Marshall so much in this film, and loved the way that he played the husband and struggled with what she had done, and then at this point the truth and the realities of all of that, and the nature of how Howard's just like, he's gonna forgive you, and she's like, yeah, and like that's that's kind of who he is. And I thought that was an interesting tell, that they recognize that it's the truth kind of broke Bob, but he will forgive her and move forward.
He will, in spite of himself. And
Yeah.
he continues to forgive. And all this is happening on the eve of a party celebrating her freedom. So the next scene, he's in his dinner jacket and he's standing at their bar in their estate, and he's drinking, and he's very, very sad. And she finally enters the room and everybody's congratulating her on her freedom. And we get to watch him just exude the scorned husband. I think it's a great sort of cap to exactly what you're talking about, and how good Herbert Marshall is. This is when things get a little bit. I just am a little fuzzy, so I need you to help me. When they go to Chinatown, she opens a box in this in the antique shop, I guess, where they are, and she sees the lovely pair of blades with an ornate handle. She touches it and then goes about her business. After this party, she goes into her chamber, her room. She opens the balcony. I guess this would be before she goes out to the party. She opens the balcony and she sees one of these knives on the ground outside of her balcony door, her veranda. She does nothing with it. She closes the door and goes out to the party. Later, she comes back and opens the door. The knife is gone. What is the significance of that exchange? Having the knife on the ground and then having it taken away.
Well, in that, right before she goes out to her porch, she's like sitting there and looking at herself in the mirror, and we do see a figure kind of walk by and kind of look in at her. And so presumably it was the widow's friend who'd kind of helped kind of connect
the
her
henchman.
along. Yeah. And I don't know. I also was just like, did he plant it there as a hint to her that we're coming after you? Was it meant for her to take, and they were going to try to frame her in some way? I wasn't really sure what the whole point of that was. It was a strange thing. It seemed to only be there to just give the audience a sense of impending threat, I guess.
Okay.
But it didn't seem that well placed in the story.
I'm really glad that you don't have a whole lot more than I did out of it. It felt fuzzy to me.
Yeah.
That does lead us to the final exchange between husband and wife, where he says, if you love someone, you can forgive them of anything. He says, they kiss. He looks at her. He says, do you tell me honestly, do you love me? And she says, no, I can't do it. I can't. I love the man I just killed. Yeah. And he stands and walks away. She goes outside, tears on her face. And this is where things, as you said, in the 1929 movie, the movie ends. Presumably the play ends somewhere along those lines, too.
Yeah, I'm guessing.
There was frustration from the Hays Code that she got away in those other movies, that she was the one who was the criminal in this case. She was, and she got off without punishment. In order to fix that, in this movie, this version of the movie, Bette Davis walks out across the yard, walks through a little gate, and who's on the other side of the gate but the henchman and the other woman, the Eurasian, and they stab her and kill her with the ornate knife and lay her down in the bushes on the outside of the wall. And as they walk around the corner, there's a police officer there who doesn't ever see the body but walks away with them as if he knows everything. Very fuzzy. Final shot is a great shot. A crane up from the body in the bushes to the party still going on inside the house. Love that shot. I think the justification of making this movie more wholesome by more murder is not appealing to me as a rationalization. But I actually find the end of this movie very dark.
Yeah. I absolutely think it's dark. It's more interesting because, I mean, yeah, it's the Hays Code. They couldn't let this woman get away. And we haven't mentioned the fact that it's very loosely based. I mean, Mom's Play is loosely based on the Ethel Proudlock case, which took place in 1911. She was tried for murder, very much the same sort of thing. She killed a man who, as it turned out, it sounds like was exactly kind of what they said. She was in a jealous rage because he was ending their affair. But she said, he came and he was trying to rape me, and I did it out of self-defense. It happened in, they were living in Kuala Lumpur, in at the time Malay, and they found her guilty and sentenced to hanging, and then they retried her, and she ended up, or I don't know if they even retried her, but the Sultan pardoned her. And so she and her family basically fled the country, went to England, ended up, she moved to Florida, where she ended up dying in the 70s. So it's loosely based on a case. It's based on something that actually happened. But even then, the Hays Code could not let it play out that way. They had to have her killed because she was guilty of adultery and she was guilty of murder. Even though now we have a Eurasian character kill her, I guess because she's not, I don't know how the Hays Code justifies it. She's not the main character. She's, of another, of another race. I don't know how they found the justification to say, well, we still get to end with a murder and somebody's satisfied because they're killed. I assume it's because
but
the
she
cop,
also the cops there. That's what I think, that she was walked away by the cops. So clearly that she's not, she doesn't get away either.
Yeah, everyone's busted.
Murder begets murder. Crimes of passion beget crimes of passion. And that's actually another thing that I think really works with the movie, is that it ends, she kills Jeffrey out of passion. Other woman kills Bette Davis, crime of passion. There's a nice little sort of completion.
Well, and another thing that I liked is as much as I don't like Gail Sondergaard playing the part, I thought there was an interesting element here that I think it was Ong who actually talked about, like, I can't remember what Howard said to him, but something about like the Chinese way, or is this the way that you people do things? When he finds out that Ong is working on behalf of, Ong
facilitating
is his assistant.
Blackmail.
He's his assistant, but he's essentially facilitating this blackmail to get $10,000 for this letter. And as it turns out, Ong is getting 2,000 of that 10. So, but what I found so interesting is Ong's response to that. It's like, it's things that we learned from you. And I'm like, okay, so I like that we're at least finding ways to kind of pin the blame on these colonizers, you know, and I thought that was actually an interesting element to it. But
I hated Ong in the best possible way, right? That the way that character is played, the way he smiles all the time, like I found myself just in the perfect amount of, diabolical. You're the worst kind of portrayal. He's really good.
Not hating the actor or the performance. You're hating the character because that's exactly what we're supposed to do.
It's exactly what we're supposed to do. And he was great. He was really, really great.
I liked him quite a bit. That was Sen Yung, who played Ong, who would go on to be Charlie Chan. No, he was Jimmy Chan in the Charlie Chan films, so he was kind of prominent. But I liked the ending, as you were saying. Like, all of that, I think, plays in a really interesting way. Like, I love how dark it is that Mrs. Hammond gets away with blackmail with this $10,000, and then she still goes and kills the woman who killed her husband. Like, I thought that was fantastic. I personally really could have used without that final shot of the police. Like, it just, that it felt the most Hays Code of all of it. It's like, well, we have to make sure that they're stopped. And I'm like, ugh. But
this is the conflict that comes when you're watching a movie that is at once dated, incredibly dated, and also timeless, right? Like, there are some really timeless sort of bits of intrigue at work in this movie that work really, really well. blackmail and all the sorts of subversion that goes along with that. And yet the stuff that is dated just sticks out horribly.
Yeah, there's some really rough stuff.
You know, and reportedly, I don't know. I read that Bette Davis said that what did she say about the Hays Code? That she said it sucked the story out of movies. I've got that quote completely wrong. But she was on. I think she was on Team 1929 in terms of.
Yeah, I think in general everybody kind of got frustrated with these often inane requirements that the Hays Code made these directors and producers change in their film in order to pass whatever thing that they felt they needed to kind of pass in order to make it sanitary.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
Bette Davis, I know I talked about kind of my struggles with Bette Davis at the beginning. Like, I really couldn't buy into her at all. But I will say, like, through the rest of it, I thought she did a great job. And it's interesting because she apparently suggested to William Wyler, who, I mean, they had worked before. It's not like this is a new relationship. But she had said, I don't think I should look at him, at her husband, when I confess that, I couldn't have killed, or I still love the man I murdered. Like that whole thing. She's like, I shouldn't look at him. She said, no woman would be able to do that when they admit something like that. And Wyler disagreed. She walked off the set but came back and did it his way. And she would always say her version would have been better. But I don't know. I thought it was fine. Like, I bought into her confession at that particular point. I feel like enough had happened where I could see her doing that. What did you think?
Yeah, because she wasn't admitting it for the first time, right? Like it wasn't news in that way. I think her just coming to terms with it, like she was just punched in the gut, and having it erupt in a fit of honesty is like right into his face was very powerful. And I think it's no woman would do that. Come on. No woman. Surely not everyone was kung fu fighting, right? Like no woman.
Yeah.
No. I don't
What a
care
white
for it.
man thing to say.
What a white man thing to say. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I enjoyed the film. I think that there's a lot of fun stuff going on with it. I think that it has its issues, but and it certainly isn't my favorite of Bette Davis's films. But I think in the scope of things, I enjoyed it. I enjoyed what they were doing with this story.
Yeah. But it sounds like you'd return to 29 before 40.
I would. I mean, one thing we haven't talked about, other than the interesting way that Wyler kind of shot that, kind of like the POV, the cinematography is gorgeous in this. Like, there are some shots where she's like, the way that he plays with moonlight, and we see a lot of that with the moon.
Oh, a lot of moonlight
coming in and out of the clouds and everything. And there's a few shots of her looking out and through like the screen that's on their veranda. And it just like all those lines on her and everything. It's just like such great like film noir sorts of looks. Like the cinematography in this was really, really beautiful. I loved the look throughout.
Yeah, me too. I thought it was, it just used contrast in such a beautiful way to sort of move us through these emotional states. I thought it looked great. Looked so good.
Yeah. William Wyler is what is the other film that they did together?
Well, Little Foxes?
That did he direct Little Foxes? Jezebel is the film that they did
Jezebel's
together.
the one.
Yeah. But I mean, I don't know if have we talked about Wyler with anything? Wuthering Heights. We did that, 1939, in our Best Pictures of 1939 series. And you're right, The Little Foxes. God, for some reason, I forgot he did that as well. Best Years of Our Lives. So we've talked about a number of
several.
Number of his films, yeah.
Funny Girl. Ben-Hur, Tale of the Christ.
I really enjoy Wyler and kind of the stuff he does. I think that he's a strong director, and yeah, I mean, I think the way that he modified, who wrote the script for this? It wasn't him. It was Howard E. Koch. But kind of, I would assume, kind of like the two of them working to kind of craft something that expanded on the play. Because again, if the play largely is what you get out of the 1929 film, they definitely expanded it a little bit. And I think, other than kind of the expository, let's sit down and lay all this out, I definitely enjoy what they did here.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, it's a really solid experience with some very dated quibbles.
Yeah.
I feel like if you want a really interesting snapshot of Hollywood's attention to empire and race and class as like systemic decay by way of imperialism, this is a great movie to look at. and I think it is a nice little bookmark to how we looked at those relationships at the time. Complicated anti-hero. I still don't feel like I am at peace with who I'm supposed to, run with in this movie overall. I think I'm still landing on Joyce, but
I would argue that they're saying that it's Leslie, but I think through today's eyes, it definitely feels like there's some confusion between her and Howard Joyce. So
yeah.
Oh
well.
Well, I guess that's it. So we'll be right back. But first, our credits.
The Next Reel is a production of True Story FM, engineering by Andy Nelson, music by Demetrix, Wonderland, Riverloom, Oriole Novella, and Eli Catlin. Andy usually finds all the stats for the awards and numbers at the-numbers.com, boxofficemojo.com, imdb.com, and wikipedia.org. Find the show at truestory.fm, and if your app allows ratings and reviews, please consider doing that for our show. Okay, sequels and remakes. Was there stuff after this?
There was stuff after, and there was stuff before, and a lot of it is because this is based on a play. So, starting with the play, they performed it. There was repertoire performances all the way up like 1954. It was revived in 95, and again in 2007. Film versions, the 1929 and the 1940, seem to be the only English language versions. But then there's a German version in 1931, a French version in 1930, a German version in 1931, a Spanish version also in 1931, and an Italian version in 1931, and then a Russian version in 1987. On top of that, then you have, it's not this film or the play, but the Ethel Proudlock case was referenced in the 1977 film East of Elephant Rock. So there's plenty of film versions. On TV, there were 6 TV anthology series adaptations in 1950, 52, 2 in 56, 1960, 1969, and then a made-for-TV movie starring Lee Remick made in 1982. Last but not least, back to the stage, somebody adapted the letter into a musical called The Bloomers in 2000, and then the Santa Fe Opera commissioned an operatic version in 2009. So It's a story that apparently people really are drawn to.
It's funny to me that after all of these versions, this is the only one I've seen.
Well, yeah, but I mean, one, I don't know if many of those are like really well-known versions. So I guess I don't know if I'm that surprised,
Yeah. I am very curious now. I'm definitely going to I'm going to check out 29, especially because it sounds so easy to digest at 65 minutes. But I'm really torn on the decision to open with the exposition versus actually showing us the story as they do in 29 as you tell it. I'm curious about that.
I really preferred the opening in the 1940 version. Like it's such a great way to open a film,
Yeah.
and then it leaves it mysterious. Like there's no mystery about what's going on in the 1929 version. The only
Yeah.
mystery is, will she be able to get away with it, is really kind of what we get out of that one.
Yeah. Right. Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay. At the box office, Andy, how
Do
did
you
it
want
do?
to ask the awards first?
I do. Would you tell me all about? It's award season, Andy. How did it do? Did it bring home the gold?
Well, it did have 5 wins with 9 other nominations. At the Oscars, it was popular. It had 7 Oscar nominations, but it didn't win any of them. Best Picture lost to Rebecca. Best Actress Bette Davis lost to Ginger Rogers and Kitty Foyle. Best Supporting Actor James Stevenson lost to Walter Brennan in The Westerner, and sadly he would die like shortly after all of this. Best Director lost to John Ford for The Grapes of Wrath. Best Cinematography, Black and White, lost to Rebecca. Best Film Editing lost to, this is a film that in some way I want us to work into a series at some point, a film called Northwest Mounted Police. About a cop who goes up to Canada to solve something, yeah. And last but not least, Best Musical Score, but lost to Pinocchio. At the National Board of Review, James Stevenson was nominated for Best Acting and won, sharing it with a film he was also in, Shining Victory. The New York Film Critics Circle Awards, Best Director, nominated but lost to John Ford for The Grapes of Wrath and The Long Voyage Home. And Best Actor, but lost to Charles Chaplin for The Great Dictator, who apparently refused to accept his award for some reason. And of course, we love talking about the Photoplay Awards. That's right. It won 4 Photoplay Awards. Best Pictures of the Month in February of 1940. It won. Best Performances of the Month for February. Bette Davis, James Stevenson, and Herbert Marshall all won. So, yeah, there you go.
Okay. Not bad.
Not too bad.
Especially those Photoplay Awards. Just makes me happy and warm every time we hear it.
Oh,
How did it do at the box office? Do you have the money?
Oh, here we are, Pete. Yet another in Pete's line of films choices that provide no data. Other than the fact that the film premiered on November 14th, 1940, I couldn't find anything else about its budget or how well it did. The only other hint I have is from Wikipedia saying this film was a huge hit with the public, but that's also not something that provides a reference to back it up. So I guess we'll never know.
We are going to be doing some sort of a report at the end of the full annual season that says how many of my movies versus how many of your movies actually have budget numbers, because you're getting dangerously close to gaslighting territory. Yet another of Pete's picks, please.
That's right.
Please. All right. Well, I'm glad we talked about this movie. I'm glad we have it in the catalog. I'm glad we're adding it to our Bette Davis collection, which is available. You can see all of the movies right in one handy page. We'll put a link to the Bette Davis movies we've talked about over on the website in the show notes.
Yeah, absolutely. Check them out. Lots of great movies to discuss and watch. So check those ones out as well. And that is it for today's conversation, everyone. Next week, we're kicking off a brand new series of Pete's Design, True Lies, stories of real people who just can't seem to tell the truth for one reason or another. And we're kicking things off with Mariel Heller's Can You Ever Forgive Me, starring Melissa McCarthy and Richard E. Grant. All right, let's do the ratings.
Letterboxd.com, Andrew, letterboxd.com/the next reel. That's where you can find all of the ratings and reviews for all the films we talked about across the Next Reel family of film shows. And we're going to do it. We're going to put stars and hearts on this movie. What are you going to do? It doesn't sound like it's going to be a 5-star and a heart barn burner for either of us.
No, and it's not even 4. It's 3 stars and a heart. Like, I enjoyed it. I think there are a lot of elements in it that I found enjoyable. I didn't love it, but I had a fun time watching it. And so I think adding a heart to it is absolutely fine too. 3 stars and a heart.
I was going to feel guilty if my 3-star and a heart met your 4-star and a heart. I feel redeemed at sticking with 3 stars. It's a solid movie with just enough quibbles. Mostly, a movie that gives me such joy to go watch other movies about the same story is probably not a 5-star movie right off the bat. So 3 stars and a heart.
It is interesting, and reading about the actual case it was based on. Like, I wonder if there's material there for somebody else to go and try to tell more of the actual story. Like, I'm curious,
Yeah.
If this is kind of it. Like, there's not much more to it, but yeah, it could be interesting. So.
For sure.
Well, anyway, that averages out to 3 stars and a heart over at our account at Letterboxd, which you can find at the next reel. You can find me there at Soda Creek Film. You can find Pete there at Pete Wright. So what did you think about the letter? We would love to hear your thoughts. Hop into the Show Talk channel over in our Discord community, where we will be talking about the movie this week.
When the movie ends,
Our conversation begins. All right, Letterboxd. You already found yours?
well, I don't know. I'm
little
chuckling.
chuckles over there.
I'm chuckles.
I assume you're happy with your. All right, let me see what I can find. I had already looked at some, and I thought I had one, but now. Let's see. Looking for Letterboxd reviews. I might just do this one. All right, I'm good.
Okay. Letterboxd giveth Andrew.
Pito.
What are you going to do?
I went right up the middle, 2.5, with watched by black heart emoji. The lighting is sexy. Bette Davis gunning a man down is sexy. But do you know what's not sexy? Yellow-faced and racist stereotypes. Absolutely. Absolutely.
There are a lot of the reviews that lean on that particular moment, right? He tried to make love to me and I shot him. The gestalt of this movie. I do like Ely's 3-star. This movie sets a precedent that if Bette Davis doesn't kill a man in the first 5 minutes of every other movie she's in, then I'm going to be severely disappointed. Bette Davis has got to kill a guy.
She's got
the rule. Yep.
Yeah,
that's it.
Stuff.
Thanks, Letterboxd.
All right, let's
look at all the questions.
Post-show chit-chat. Look at all these questions. Wyler apparently hated the ending and production code mandates for it. Do you sense that in the final film? I feel like we litigated that a bit as far as it feeling a little, I think you said, what did you say, fuzzy?
Yeah, it's fuzzy. That was my movie review term.
Yeah.
It's fuzzy.
Definitely feels fuzzy.
It is fuzzy. I think that, the film spends such a long time enjoying the kind of suffocating elegance of Leslie getting away with it. That whole middle stretch of the movie is about how a lie can be managed by class and money and prestige. We talked about it. And the ending just sort of whiplashes you right into moral accounting. And that, I think, is the tell. Like, the movie is such a long stretch in the middle where it's just really, we're managing a lie, and we know she's going to get away with it, and everything's going to be fine. And then she's struck down suddenly. Dark. I enjoy it, but I think that's the sign. That's the fingerprint.
I actually don't mind her getting stabbed. Like, I really like that because in the scope of the film, because I felt like such a story about white privilege, it was nice to see this widow not just get money from her, but then also kill her anyway. Like, I actually really enjoyed that. I really was like the little bit with the cop at the end. I'm like, oh, come on, just let her get away with it. But like, that's perhaps Wyler's fuzziest bit of moment in there that I would say, okay, maybe that's him saying he really hated doing this, but
yeah.
Would you be surprised that Wyler and Davis were previously romantically involved? If so, does it shine through in the film anywhere?
Would I be surprised?
I'm not surprised.
That comes out of the rumor fog. No,
I mean,
I'm
I'd
not
heard all of
surprised.
that,
Yeah.
and it's not something that I feel like I see in their films.
I think what we get is a visible sort of intimacy of the craft. Like Wyler, I think really knows how to how to photograph Betty Davis, and she obviously trusts him enough to give the performances that she gives for him. I think it's but I don't necessarily know that directly relates to whatever potential relationship they had.
Well, this is a quote from her later down the list. So many directors were such weak sisters that I would have to take over. Uncreative, unsure of themselves, frightened to fight back. They offered me none of the security that this tyrant did. So, yeah,
Yeah,
I guess that she at least respected that about him. So,
yeah.
thoughts on Stevenson's performance as the lawyer? We talked about him. He died the next year of a heart attack. What later 1940s or 50s parts would he have been interesting in?
God, he really is good at sliding, like slurming into compromised positions, right?
Slurming.
Such a
Wow.
good word, right? I would want to watch him in anything else that deals in prestige corruption, right? Like the respectable guy who just can't stay respectable because events are out of control. So, soldier, courtroom attorney, judge, that kind of stuff. I'd be into that. I like the way he plays the ooze toward compromise.
Yeah, he plays conflict well. I think he's interesting. Critic Pauline Kael wrote, Davis gives what is very likely the best study of female sexual hypocrisy in film history. Thoughts? Is that specifically with this film, or is that just a comment on Bette Davis?
That's interesting. I don't know.
I'm assuming it's for the film.
Yeah, me too. I think that Leslie is trapped in expectations of virtue, and she weaponizes the performance of virtue like she's been training to do it all her life. And I think that's what's important about her disingenuity in the beginning, that I don't know if it's just hypocrisy, but it's sexual strategy under a social regime that demands hypocrisy from women at the time. And that's why I think the film gets away and the story gets away without caring whether she's good or bad. It's just much more interested in caring how she acts good or bad when it matters and what it costs her at the end of the movie.
Yeah, I mean, if anything, I think that there's an interesting element to what Kael has to say there, but because I struggled so much with that opening expository explanation of what happened and the fact that I couldn't buy Davis through that, it's hard for me to say it's the best study of female sexual hypocrisy. But
Yeah.
would you call this a film noir in prestige key? Why or why not? I think a lot of people classify this as kind of a proto noir.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's kind of on the cusp of it. It certainly feels like we're leaning into that world. So
It is. I mean, it has a lot of the ingredients, right? It has the adultery and the murder and and desire, sick desire, and moral compromise, and all of that. The shadows, God, it's got all the visual treatment of noir. And yet here we are with this glamorous star and a literary source, and so I can see noir adjacent. I use that too much, probably.
yeah. Let's see. Warner Brothers used to never have writers on set during production. Wyler's working process was to have them on set to help with improvising during rehearsals and shooting. Which I think some of that speaks to the way that this feels. They definitely expanded from what it was, but also some of the struggles that we have, some of the expository bits. What did you think of the moonlight use? Apparently, Wyler decided to use it as a symbol of Davis wanting to avoid the memory of what she had done.
I love it. I love the use of moonlight, and I love the reflection that we get every time she is under it in direct light. It's usually it reminded me a little bit of the way Ryan Johnson uses light through the windows in Wake Up Dead Man. Like, it always feels like we're learning something about her as when she's under the influence of the moon. I thought it was very effective.
I liked it too. I don't know if I quite read it that way, but it like the light and the shadow and the way that it played, like it created moments of illumination, and then it also, when the clouds had covered up, created these great moments of obfuscation, and I just liked the way that that worked. So we talked about racial hypocrisy a little bit. How would you compare its treatment of that issue with, say, The Searchers or other Westerns interested in tackling race themes?
I think you watched The Searchers more recently than I did.
Well, I mean, I obviously in both cases we're struggling with white people playing the roles, and I think that's just an issue that is a big problem, but it's next to, I think, the question. I think it's tackling an interesting element of the racial story here, in that we're getting a sense that Ong and perhaps Mrs. Hammond, the widow, are acting the way these white colonialists have kind of shown them, that, like, well, this is how you're going to treat us, so we're just going to jump in and blackmail you and be part of this thing. It's I don't know. It's an interesting way to kind of explain the reasons that they're doing this, or at least Ong is. I guess he's the one who specifically talks about that. But so I don't know how. I don't know how much they're specifically tackling the hypocrisy here, other than, like, as a white woman, she kind of gets away with it, you know, and I think that's, and then the cops are right there when Mrs. Hammond does the same thing, and so yeah.
You're right. That's the statement. The cops are always watching.
Yeah. The
non-white people, anybody in the community that's not white.
Yeah.
Yeah, they had to wait a long time after the shooting for authorities to show up. They didn't show up in the beginning.
They didn't.
No.
They're just like, well, I guess we should take you in.
Yeah.
It's like, wow, this is crazy. Davis was pregnant and had an abortion during filming. Quote, I went to the doctor on a Saturday and showed up for scenes on Monday morning wearing a form-fitting eyelet evening dress for a scene. And that damn Tony, the director of photography, said, Jesus, Betty, it looks like you've lost 5 pounds over the weekend.
Oh my God.
Wow, that's a dark story, but there it is.
Yeah.
Last question. Would you say this movie plays into Bette Davis's star persona or subverts it?
I'm watching this movie, and I'm getting that sense of, like, Bette Davis testing how far she can go as an antagonist, right? As a corrupt leading lady, because of the earned credibility of something of her persona. Just felt like, okay, I've done a lot of things where I'm ingenue, where I'm romantic lead, where I'm, and this one I'm gonna straight up kill somebody, and we're gonna see what happens. I haven't seen enough Bette Davis movies.
Well, I mean, our series is touching on far too few of all of the movies. Like, how have we not added Return from Witch Mountain onto our list? I don't even know. But I mean, if you watch some of the other things that she had done, like in This Our Life or Jezebel, she likes playing characters with a dark streak. Mm-hmm. I think that's one thing that we get with Bette Davis quite a bit, and certainly see it here. That being said, I don't think this is the best use of it, and I think she was still struggling with, like, how to play it sometimes. And again, it's just, for me, it all falls into that first act of the film where I'm like, okay, I feel like we're not subverting it. I think that she's just playing into that type of character, but she's doing it, I don't know, with too much ease or something,
Yeah. Well, yeah. I guess that's true. There is this sort of Betty Davis in a cage subgenre, right? Where she puts herself into tight spots
Yeah.
and gets to be defiant all the way around.
Yeah. So this is definitely a big thing with her. So. All right. Well, that is it. Thanks, everybody, for tuning in as we live stream this and for the questions that you've all thrown at us. We appreciate it. And yeah, we'll be back next week as we kick off our True Lies series with Will You Ever Forgive Me? See you next time, everyone.
Thanks.